Have you ever felt a strange tension inside you? A quiet war between what you've been taught to be and what you truly are? Have you ever sensed a deeper, darker voice beneath your niceness, your nurturing, your selflessness, one that says, "There's more to me than this"? Carl Jung would tell you that voice is not madness, it's your shadow. And if you're a woman, that shadow holds the key to a power you've been taught to fear. From the moment girls are born, they are bathed in a language of light. Be sweet, be kind, be soft, be good. Good girls are rewarded. Good girls are loved. But there's a cost. Anger is suppressed, ambition is trimmed, sexuality is sanitized, and assertiveness is shamed. Over time, everything that doesn't fit the ideal is sent underground, into the unconscious. Jung called this the shadow, the parts of ourselves we disown, deny, and exile. But he didn't mean the shadow was evil. He meant it was powerful, untapped, vital. Especially in women, the shadow often carries the energies they were never allowed to express. Rage, lust, jealousy, power, creativity, and wildness. To meet the shadow isn't to become dangerous, it's to become whole. Psychologist Clarissa Pinkola Estés, author of Women Who Run with the Wolves, refers to this as the wild woman archetype. She argues that beneath every obedient daughter, every compliant wife, every helpful colleague, there is an untamed self waiting to be heard. This is the woman who dreams, who howls, who remembers her instincts. But in many modern cultures, she's buried under decades, centuries of conditioning. Jung believed that individuation, the process of becoming a full human being, requires a confrontation with this shadow. And for women, that means facing the darkness they've been taught to fear inside themselves. The shadow is not just personal, it's collective. It holds the pain of generations. The women who couldn't speak, the mothers who couldn't leave, the daughters who couldn't choose. In therapy rooms, you'll often hear this sentence, "I don't know why I'm so angry." But the body knows. The nervous system remembers. A woman who was always told to smile eventually clenches her jaw. A woman who was never allowed to say no eventually stops knowing what she wants. Her shadow leaks out through anxiety, depression, chronic fatigue, disconnection. The shadow doesn't go away because you ignore it. It waits, and eventually, it demands to be seen. Let's take an example. Sarah, a 34-year-old teacher, comes to therapy exhausted. She's beloved by her students, praised by her co-workers, admired by her partner. But she's falling apart. She can't sleep. Her body aches. She cries in the shower. She says, "I've done everything right. Why do I feel so wrong?" The answer isn't in what she's done, but in what she's suppressed. Sarah's entire life has been a performance of goodness. But her shadow, the part of her that's furious, sexual, selfish, wild, has never had a voice. And now, it's screaming. Jung warned that what we repress doesn't die. It festers. And if not integrated consciously, it takes over unconsciously. Women who ignore their shadow often project it onto others. They call other women too much, too loud, too selfish, because they've denied those traits in themselves. This is shadow projection. It's not just psychological, it's cultural. Think about how we treat women who express rage. They're called hysterical. Women who show sexual agency, slut-shamed. Women who lead, bitches. These are not isolated insults. They are cultural mechanisms to keep the feminine shadow buried. And yet without it, a woman can never truly know her power. The dark feminine is not evil. It is erotic, intuitive, fierce, protective, wise. In mythology, she shows up as Lilith, Kali, Medusa, women who refuse to be controlled. In Jungian psychology, she might be the dark mother, the witch, the seductress, not as villains, but as archetypes that carry rejected truths. To reclaim them is not to become wicked, but to become free. Modern psychology is finally catching up. Therapists now understand how gender roles shape the psyche. Dr. Shefali Tsabary writes about conscious parenting, showing how women are often taught to suppress their needs for the sake of others, and how this creates disconnection. Dr. Gabor Maté talks about authenticity versus attachment, how we give up our real selves to be loved, but there's a cost. You get the attachment, but lose the self. To begin integrating the shadow is to say, my truth matters more than my image. It starts small. You set a boundary and feel guilty. You speak your anger and fear rejection. You say no and tremble. But each act is a crack in the persona. Each choice is a return to yourself. Jung believed the shadow was 90% gold. That means most of what we fear inside ourselves is not bad. It's unloved. When women reclaim their rage, they find clarity. When they honor their sadness, they find softness. When they touch their desire, they find life. The shadow is the key to vitality. And yet, this work is not easy. It requires grief. You grieve the years you were silent. You grieve the mask you wore. You grieve the self you lost trying to be loved. But through that grief comes rebirth. In the words of Marion Woodman, Jungian analyst and feminist thinker, when a woman finally realizes that she has been living a lie, not a life, she cries, not because she is weak, but because she is strong enough to feel. This is what happens when a woman meets her shadow. She stops performing and starts living. She stops shrinking and starts expanding. She stops pleasing and starts choosing. So what can you do? Begin noticing. Where are you pretending? Where are you exhausted from being nice? Where are you furious under your smile? Write it down. Speak it aloud. Share it with a safe other. And then create. Dance, write, paint, move your body, reclaim your voice. The shadow doesn't integrate through logic. It integrates through embodiment. You may lose some people. People who loved your mask may not love your truth. But you will gain something far more precious, yourself. Carl Jung said, the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. But it's also the most liberating. The world has enough good girls. What it needs is whole women. And wholeness begins in the dark.